Ladies and gentlemen, this is an NBC News article. Apparently, rockets have been launched at the airport in Kabul. But NBC News says U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan uninterrupted. So, God forbid this escalates even more. 13 Americans lost their lives. Close to 200 Afghans lost their lives because of Biden. It's 100% his fault. That is not hyperbole. All he had to do was abide by the negotiated deal. Check my segment prior to this one. On May 1st, 2021, we were supposed to have already been out of that country. You can debate whether the country would have fallen had we stayed there for 200 years. In addition to the 20 we were already there for. And so you can debate the decision to withdraw or the negotiated peace deal, the Doha Agreement. You can debate, whether we should have stayed there forever and turned it into a territory of our country. You can debate that forever. The obvious answer is no, we couldn't stay there forever. That's the correct answer. You can't stay in a counterinsurgency conflict forever. It's impossible. There's no definition of victory. But there are rockets that have already headed towards the airport from our adversaries. Who knows who it's from? Could be just for the algorithm, the T-band, or AQ, or ISK. Who knows? Meanwhile, the U.S. says it's investigating reports. Well, we struck back and retaliated, and a terrible tragedy. Terrible, terrible tragedy. Children lost their lives. So, you have a series of endless mistakes by the Biden administration. He is the worst president, maybe a tad bit better than George W. Bush. And even, I don't know about that, but probably he's better than Bush, but I don't know. They're both horrible. 1 and 2 in terms of the worst presidents of all time. They say Trump was the worst president of all time. That's because he didn't care about their sensibilities. So, if you don't, devote your life to appeasing the morally superior, wonderful, God bless them, morally superior liberal Democrats and their sensibilities, their viewpoint of what's decent and moral and just and right, and what you can say and what you can't say, as long as you're not offensive. You could preside over worse atrocities, worse policies than anything that happened during President Trump, but you can call it, then they call Trump cruel. He's a despot. He's an authoritarian. Name me a day worse than several days ago when 13 Americans lost their lives. Name me one day that's worse during Trump's administration. Name me one day. You can't. Even if you stumbled upon this channel, you're not a supporter of President Trump, or you don't have to like him at all to realize that Biden is a horrendous president. And really, the people around him are leading, and we have no clue. These people are polished, highly educated imbeciles that continually fail upwards. And they have this media machine that still is trying to prop them up. The whole edifice, the entire monstrosity is caving in from the weight of its own corruption. But hit subscribe to this channel right now if you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post. Go to hagoodman.com. And if you want to give a super thanks for the channel, the super thanks is right next to the like and the share buttons. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support my work long-term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. Rockets headed towards Kabul airport early Monday, the latest in a chaotic series of events at the main exit point out of Afghanistan as the United States military withdrawal enters its final hours. It's interesting how media, NBC News and others, are just promoting the narrative. Well, we're leaving. Oh, we're leaving. You know what? We're leaving. And, we're leaving. And this is the final hours. And, it might be chaotic. And rockets might be fired and people might lose their lives, but Biden is abiding by this August 31st timeline. Why August 31st? It was May 1st. May 1st was May 1st. Someone give this man like a calendar with puppies or muscle cars. Give him a calendar so you can look at it in January, February, March, April, and then May. We were supposed to be out May 1st. It was agreed upon by even the adversaries there. We wouldn't have to deal with any of this. If we had an orderly evacuation, we wouldn't have to deal with any of this. If he had simply decided not to spite Trump, look, he did it to spite Trump because Trump is broken. He's broken the minds, the spirits, the will of Democrats everywhere. He's broken them. Do you understand? They're not even speaking to lifelong friends because of support of Trump. Biden, in less than a year, has already been infinitely worse than anything Trump has ever done, and Trump presided over great things. He said mean things. Even I can acknowledge that President Trump should have toned down certain rhetoric. But at the end of the day, he didn't preside over these tragedies. Yes, there were certain... I was against family separation. That was a horrible decision or policy. He ended that in 2018. Look at what took place during President Obama's administration with the Senate report. Read the Senate report. I can't even read the Senate report because it's against YouTube guidelines. But this is spiraling out of control, and what media and what the Biden administration will do is the following. In a vapid, irresponsible, inept public relations attempt, what they'll say is, anything that happens after August 31st, any Americans left, any Afghans left, any people fighting for their lives, any people trying desperately to survive, to get out, we wipe our hands with this. That's what they'll say. Because, we arbitrarily made this timeline. May 1st was the time that we should have left. The Doha Agreement specified that. The T-Ban and others, the T-Ban acknowledged that May 1st. We should have already been out, but he just picked this arbitrary, September date. And so now anything that happens, it's like almost like they've tried to absolve themselves of guilt or responsibility. So what happens to Americans? What happens if there's people left behind? What happens, God forbid, if there's more rockets that are being launched towards the airport? And you look, and it's like, where's the outrage? Where is the outrage? I would like to know this. There was more outrage from Trump and Putin in Helsinki. There was more outrage pertaining to, just the Helsinki conference, where they compared that to Pearl Harbor. This is... you could say it's one of the worst days or tragedies in American history. A chaotic withdrawal with people fleeing and evacuating, with 13 Americans lost and 200 plus, close to 200 Afghans lost. And it's spiraling out of control. And the media is doing its best to mitigate any emotions, any negative emotions towards mashed potato brains and his merry band of absolute buffoons and fools, but highly educated, polished. Don't you understand? You have to understand the mindset. At least it's not Trump. Trump was a maniac. Trump was so mean. But he was competent. We had record low unemployment. Now we have an eviction crisis looming. In addition to how many debacles and crises and all of these things are taking place. And be careful what you wish for. Democrats got what they wanted. They got what they wanted. They had anyone but Trump, and now we have the entire world collapsing, and Taiwan might be invaded. So, this is an absolute catastrophe. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. I'm not getting anything on any casualties, but God bless the Americans and the coalition forces or the soldiers and the Afghans trying to leave. And I hope that they get home without any further complication. Although, with the way Biden's run things, who knows what can happen. Give me your thoughts. Thank you. Hit subscribe. Be here tonight for the live stream at around 10 p.m.